I'll start by lifting the blacks just to see where the darkest parts of the image is. And it tracks pretty well, but I can see that there are areas in the hair where the hair meets the face. There are areas that are super black. And the brightest parts of the image, I'm looking to see if there's any clipping basically. So I bring that down. And it doesn't seem to be any clipping. Actually, the brightest part of the picture is her shoulder, which may or may not be a problem. Then I'm going to add contrast. This is shot on red. I could use a LUT. Well, I'm not going to use a LUT. I'm just going to apply contrast. And what I'm looking for here is a good distribution on the waveform. And then when you see that the skin tone is quite pale, normally I would be bringing it back down using the pivot point. Because what I want is, in this first node, this is a technical grade. So it should be close to what the camera does, not what we want it to look like. And with the pivot point in its default position, the side of the face has a shadow on it, but that shadow is now lighter than it should be. So as I move the pivot point, you'll see the face get darker, and then when I go too far, the highlights on the face become muddy. So I'm looking to get the best separation between the highlights and the shadows, and that's going to be about there. So that gives me a pretty good idea of what the skin tone really looks like. And there's lots of problems. There's marks on the skin, there's color differences between the cheek and the chin and the forehead, the nose. They all have different colors in them. So this is the thing, if you want something to look real and natural, you have to keep all those colors. But if you're doing beauty work, all fake, all false. Right? So this is a beauty shot, so we're going to work on it as a beauty shot. But that's my starting point, and then I'll just have a look over here on the waveform, and I see it's still a little bit dark, so even though I used contrast here, I might just brighten it up a little bit to give us a good dynamic range to start from. Okay, so that's my technical. Now I'm going to add a serial node, and I'm going to start working on skin. There's two ways that you can do this. You can either try to get the skin perfect in the technical grade and then fix everything around the skin, or you can go straight to a key on the skin. For beauty work, I typically go straight to the skin because we're going to replace everything anyway. So let's see if we can get a key. I'm going to do multiple keys. So what I found, that the way that I like to do this is, instead of trying to get one key for the skin and one for the lips, the first key is everything, and then the second key is a key inside the first one. And you'll see why that kind of works out better. But if you try and do two keys that are touching each other, it's very hard to get the edge to work properly. So you always kind of see edges and lines and cross colors and things. Okay, so I've got two keys that I could use here. One is hue, saturation, luminance, and one is the 3D keyer. The luminance keyer is kind of pointless in my opinion, because you might as well use the hue, saturation, luminance just in case you need it. And the RGB keyer is really difficult to control. So it's either the 3D or the HSL. The 3D is all done by eyedropper. It works really well, and I use it a lot on skin tone, especially if there's a lot of light and dark on the skin tone. So let's start with that. So I'm going to choose the 3D keyer. Unfortunately, in Resolve, there's no RGB selection in the color space. In Encoder and Baselight, I think most of the others that have 3D keyers, they have an RGB color space, and the result is much cleaner. But in Resolve, we don't have that, so we'll choose HSL. So first we have to choose one color. So I'll take the color on the space, and typically we take it from the nose or the chin. So I'll take it from here, and we'll put it into highlight mode so we can see it. So you can see that's done a reasonable job already, but it hasn't picked up the lips. So I'm going to add, using the plus eyedropper, I'm going to add the lips. And I want that in there as well. And you can just keep adding. You can drag and add as well, so you can do something like this. And you see that's put in a lot of hair. Whether you're using hue saturation luminance or just RGB, it's very important that you have all of the skin. It's no good thinking, oh, if I take more skin, it's going to pick up the hair. You have to have all the skin, because if there are spaces in the key, that will always appear as noise in the grade. So if I have to put a shape around it to get rid of the hair, that's still better than reducing the size of the key and having a noisy key. So it's really important that the key is clean. So that's not too bad, but I need to get rid of the hair a little bit and the eyes. So then I'm going to use a subtractive eyedropper and say I don't want this area here. And that did quite a good job. When you get it that good, you should be able to clean it up using the controls on the right hand side. So we'll do some denoise and then clean the black. That will take out that hair detail. I think the white is probably okay. And then I'll always add a little bit of defocus as well to get rid of any noise. And then the in-out ratio is going to be, it's like a glow effect. So if I do this, you can see that area around the side of the face, that's always going to have a bit of a glow on it. That's not what we want. So I need to shift the ratio until we lose that shadow edge on the right hand side. So let's do that. So that's my key, so that's quite good. And let's just grab that for a second, put that in to my stills. Grab still. Okay. So I cut that. So that's usually the 3D keyer is very good for skin, because skin typically, although when we deliver it, it's usually quite flat and beautiful and very clean, skin normally has shadows and highlights, so the hue saturation luminance keyer is quite hard to use. That's my opinion. But let's do it with the hue saturation luminance keyer as well, because then we can compare them. So same thing, start off with the eyedropper and drag across the face to get a starting point. And you can see for some reason it's given me no softness, which is a bit weird. For some reason it's giving me nothing at all. Let's try that again.
Pick up. You pick the minus.
Oh,
point.
you're right, sorry. Let's go to that. Oh, great. Let's do that again. Right, okay. Right, so this is typical of what the eyedropper does in the key. Let's have a look at the key up here. First of all, it nearly always makes the key too small, and it uses a lot of softness, way too much softness. So this area on the cheek over here, this area here, that's going to be a problem. That can't stay like that. So when I'm building a key, the first thing